So I essentially want you all to understand is that if globalization exists, countries are able to probably exchange their goods, send their products to other countries, and also receive products from other countries, right? So that's called importing and exporting, and also trading. So if that can happen, and other things can also happen. For example, we get access to Hollywood, Hollywood gets access to Bollywood, etc., etc. So if all of this can happen, is it good for developing countries or is it not? That's exactly what the debate is about. So, and specifically towards the economy of developing countries. So, on proposition, you would tell all the harms of globalization to economy of developing nations. So, how would you research for it? You will first try to search what globalization is, and how globalization has impacted economy of developing nations, and then you would try to find out the positives of it and then negatives of it. So when you get the positives of it, you would use it in your turn code first half of the speech, and then when you get the negatives of it, you would use it in the second half of your speech. Okay. I hope the topic is clear. If there is any doubt, put it in the chat box, please. Okay, I think I would move forward with some of the questions based on the things that we did um, in the last class. So the first thing is how much is the prep time for turn code in the chat box. So we're playing fast fingers first. So whoever is able to answer first, obviously, is going to get it right. Okay, Drivan, 3 minutes. Okay, great. Um, all those again for the last one time I'm saying economic edge is the theme of the top it is the theme of the tournament entirely. The topic for you all is globalization topic, which is again retrieved out of the theme that we have made. So for the theme for you all was just for you to know that, throughout the tournament, we are going to give topics on economy. So don't get confused, which is why the globalization topic is also an economy topic. So do not get confused. Economic edge is not your topic for the rounds. Your topic for the rounds is globalization's impact on developing nation. Okay, great. Having said that, let's move towards the fastest fingers first again. 3 minutes is the speech time. No, can you please put in the chat box? Okay, the next question that I have is, what is the structure of turncode speech? So tell me the turncode speech structure in the chat box. Intro, for, transition, again, conclusion. Great, Aryan. Okay, wonderful. Okay, great, great, great. Okay. So that's the answer. The three parts of your speech is supposed to be intro, body, conclusion, and in body you're supposed to have for the motion, then transition, and then against the motion. The next question is, can you go above 3 minutes, or you have to strictly speak only for 3 minutes? Yes, yes. The answer is yes. You're strictly supposed to give 3 minute speech. However, we understand that sometimes it can go 15 seconds above or 15 seconds lower. That is completely all right. Okay. All right. The next question that I have is, can I attend only one round and skip the other two?
Hi, Afreen ma'am. If you can just give me the co-host as well. Thanks.
Yes, you cannot. You have to attend all 3 rounds necessarily. Great. Okay, wonderful. Yes, Yuvan, you're correct. Big no, correct, correct. So the last question that I have is, what are we going to learn today? So based on yesterday's session, I told you exactly what we're going to learn today. So tell me, what are we going to learn today? In the chat box. and tricks. Yes, yes, and
Format.
how to make our speech correct. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples so you have better understanding of what exactly you're supposed to do. Okay. All right, then I'm going to share screen now. And just remember that for everybody's understanding and for everybody's comfort, please keep yourself muted. Otherwise, we won't be able to finish the training on time. So keep yourself muted. And if you have any doubt, let me know in the chat box itself. Okay. All right, then I welcome you all to the day 2 training session for UPSDL. And this is just a quick recap of yesterday's session. So yesterday I showed you the theme of the tournament, which is Economic Edge Wealth of Wits. We have already released the topic for your tournament, which is globalization's effect on economy on the developing nations. I already explained it to you. And we also learned as to what exactly is Turncode. Turncode is a speech event, which is individual speech events. You're individually supposed to prepare your speech. You're not just supposed to support a motion, but you're also supposed to oppose the motion. You have 3 minutes of prep time. You have 3 minutes of total time limit. So you can only speak for 3 minutes. And a very good question to ask is how many words should I write, right? Because you're supposed to make your speeches and you're supposed to probably type it or write it somewhere. So the way how you have to go about it is you need to understand what your pace is. Normally, a lot of people probably like speak 2 words a second, etc. But I think the general understanding is, I think if you write a speech for 250 to 300 words, it should actually come to 3 minutes. However, once you're done writing your speech, try to recite it, prepare for it, and then also time yourself. Look if it is for 3 minutes. If not, probably cut down or like probably add more content based on your pace. So always write your speech first, practice it, time it, remake the speech based on the timings that you actually get. Again, the pace that you are actually speaking for isn't supposed to be very stagnant. It is supposed to have voice modulation, or at times you have to speak slower than the other times, etc. So great. So that is what was taught to you yesterday. Today I'm going to teach you what is the speech division for junior category. So remember, there is 3 minutes of prep time, right? So when there are 3 minutes of prep time, how do you actually efficiently utilize your prep time? So so the first thing that you would do is introduce your topic. So how do you introduce your topic? And I'll tell you what to do in the introduction.
Don't
But
worry, your camera and voice both are okay.
so everybody knows by far you're supposed to introduce, you're supposed to give arguments for the motion, you're supposed to give arguments against the motion, and then you're supposed to give conclusion. Again, transition exists in the middle. The transition isn't supposed to be that long as well. So it probably cuts down to your like probably some part of your for the motion and against the motion, so you can balance that out. But the transition shouldn't exceed like 10 seconds to begin with. So your introduction should be for 30 seconds. Then your arguments for the motion should be for 1 minute. Your arguments against the motion should be 1 minute. And then your conclusion should be 30 seconds. This is for you to efficiently use like the time, because again, if you're speaking 1 minute, 30 seconds for arguments for the motion, and then you're not like really speaking a lot for against the motion, then it's just not good for turncode, right? So in turncode, you need to make sure that you are spending equal time on for the motion and against the motion. And this speech division actually works the best simply because you have 3 minutes and then you have to cover a lot of things. So just remember that, conclusion is really important. Introduction is also really important, which is why 30 seconds are also given there. So that is your speech division. Let's move forward. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for turncode. And then again, I'm going to take some questions before I move towards the example. So don't worry, I'm going to look at the chat box. But before that, I think it's necessary for you to just understand what you're supposed to do. So in introduction, what you're essentially supposed to do is give a statement that is very catchy and is able to hook the audience. What it basically means is that you are the person who is going to speak next. And I think judges basically listen to a lot of speeches. What you need to make sure is that you're making the first impact extremely well. So you're basically making sure that the first thing that the judge is actually going to listen from you is very impactful, very interesting. Like, I want to listen more to your speech, etc. So you're supposed to make sure that the beginning of your speech is very attractive. is something that, makes me want to listen you more. And how can you do it? You can probably present a rhetorical statement. For example, did you know? Or you can probably start with a very amazing quote by somebody I know. So I quote William Shakespeare, and then you can quote that person. Or you can go ahead and start with like a very interesting statistic. So all of this basically helps engage the audience much better. And that's how you introduce to the topic. So that's your opening line, but you also go forward and define like the key terms of the motion. For example, for the motion that has been given to you, which is globalization, you can obviously, like in the first 30 seconds, once you're done with your opening statement, you can move forward and probably explain as to what globalization is, how it has impacted, like the general context. And then you can move forward with your for the motion and against the motion. I think the second tip that I'm going to give to you is that if you support a particular thing in your for the motion, you can always rebut it in your against the motion. I can see who is annotating, and I think it's really just not okay for you to annotate. Please stop annotating. Okay, so you're supposed to rebut your own points. What does it mean? So let's say the topic is ice cream is better than milkshake, okay? And when you're speaking for the motion, you say that, listen, ice cream is better than milkshake because ice cream has a lot of flavors, because you can have a lot of variety in ice cream and so on and so forth. That is your argument for the motion. What you can do when you're speaking against the motion is that um, even though proposition or even though people who like ice cream believes that ice cream has a lot of flavors, but that's not necessarily true, because even milkshake can have like the same amount of flavors simply because milkshake also contains ice cream. So whichever flavors exist in ice creams can also exist in milkshake, because milkshake essentially incorporates ice creams a lot of times. For example, butterscotch milkshake, etc., etc. So you just rebutted your own point within your own speech. So this basically tells the judge that, you know what, this person has thoroughly researched all points and have tried to figure out like the both sides or both sides of the motion properly of the same argument. So this is really nice. So you can rebut your own arguments. The third one is that whenever you're shifting from for the motion to against the motion, don't just say things like, now I have spoken for the motion, now I'll speak against the motion. That's really basic. So we also have scores for transition. Transition essentially means when you're starting, when you have ended your speech for the motion, you go for towards the against of the motion. So how can you do it? I've given an example here. So this one says, panel, forget everything that I said. I do not quite know what possessed me for the last 2 minutes. This is a good way of getting the attention of the panel and audience, and it basically tells the judges that, you know what, now you're going to like move forward with the against the with the topic again. So this is just an example. If you want to use this in your speech, you can. However, I mean, all interesting and amazing like understandings of the motion are always appreciated. So I have equal number of arguments both sides. For example, on for the motion or whenever you're supporting the motion, if you're giving 3 arguments, make sure you're also adding 3 arguments on opposition. Again, in the last of your speech, you can always use it to summarize and like find a balance between both. So for example, if it is ice cream is better than milkshake, you can always say whether it's ice cream or milkshake, they both like have their own spaces in our lives. For example, ice creams are really good in summers, but milkshake can also be like, used and like, probably be used in winters as well. So you can basically try to find a balance between both in your conclusion. So don't try to make a biased opinion on, what, I like ice cream. So don't make it biased, try to make it balanced. Okay, so before I move forward with the examples, I'm going to look in the chat box. I'm going to stop sharing also. So I basically am able to look at the chat box. Yes, so you're supposed to introduce yourself before your speech, which is basically before the 3-minute time starts. So say before I start my speech, I would like to introduce myself. My name is, let's say, Arav. I study in this class. I'm gonna start speaking, and then you can give a countdown to the judge, and you can say I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1, and then the judge will start the timer, and then you can start exactly from your opening statement. I will try to speak slowly. I'm sorry. Anusha, we will let you know when you will get your topic for 11th May. Please prepare for it right now, and then you would understand. And if let's say if anyone who qualifies, they will know what is the topic for out rounds. Okay, great. So I hope there are no more topics for the things that I taught you right now. What is a panel? Panel is basically the judges. So you call the judges panel. So you try to address them. Can we get our script or points page? So here's the thing. You can use paper. However, do not read out from it because it's a speech event. You're judged based on your speaking style, the way how you speak, etc. So you always need to make sure that you have so it's just one speech for 3 rounds, right? So by heart the whole speech, and I think this time it's easier because we have only put it one speech. So by heart your speech, remember it, and then give your best presentation, because oftentimes when you have paper in your hand, it doesn't have the best presentation. You're continuously looking at it, etc. Whoever is asking for venue for 5th May, venue is the Zoom call. We will send you the link. How do we conclude? So in conclusion, so once you're done with your arguments against the motion, you're supposed to start saying, in conclusion, I would like to say, and then you have to give a conclusion in terms of, 1, give a summary of all the points that you gave. 2, tell as to the balance of as to what the balance of both sides can actually look like. So it looks like, for let's say if it is the motion for ice cream is better than milkshake, and I think I already told you. So if it is in conclusion, I would like to say, even though ice cream and milkshake has their own benefits and harms, they both play a different and their specific roles in our lives. For example, ice cream is the best in summers, and milkshake can also be.
What is meaning of globalization?
Yes, Kashvi. Globalization I've already mentioned multiple times in this class, but also go back in the document, and also in the motion slide it says what globalization is. So if you would want to see the recording once more, please do so.
What is the topic actually?
The topic is, okay, can anyone tell me what the topic is in the chat box really fast? I think this has been told you 100 times now.
And what is
Let's-
globalization or economic edge?
No, it is globalization.
Okay. ma'am.
And globalization is just the heading of the topic. The topic is
It is globalization.
on globalization has harmed economy of developing nation. Yes, this is the topic.
हमने बोला है लिखना है सब लिख रहे हैं देखो.
Miss, how many students will actually qualify?
In fact,
Based on
we need
based
to speak on globalization.
no, you're supposed to speak on globalization has harmed the economy of developing nation.
globalization. Ma'am, what is the main topic?
Honey, this is the topic. I just mentioned it. I'm sending it. I'm gonna paste it here.
Miss Ma, we will speak the same speech in all the 3 rounds.
If you want to, or you can like make a little bit of difference in your speeches each round, you can. There's no harm in that as well.
Miss, how many students will actually qualify for
So that is so that is dependent on how many kids actually are and how good you all actually do. So if the cumulative is actually clashing, we'll probably break more people, but I'm not going to give you now. Right?
Ma'am, what is globalization?
On what basis we will be
Impacting.
You will, on what basis is a very good question. I'm going to open my slides again, but please look at this one. This is your topic. Okay.
Ma'am, will you tell us that we are proposition or opposition, or do we have to prepare both?
3 minutes.
So for turn code, you're supposed to prepare a 3-minute speech with introduction, for the motion, against the motion, conclusion. Shania, did you just join right now? Okay, go back and listen to the training again. I already mentioned what you're supposed to do in your speeches. I'm going to move forward, otherwise we won't be able to cover what is supposed to be taught.
Ma'am, is this for turn code or this is for APD?
This is for turn code. So let's take this example, and this is example of this house would ban zoos, okay? Listen to it carefully because it will help you how you're supposed to make your arguments properly. So the first thing that you would do is introduction, And in a dip, so what you're supposed to do here is you're supposed to make your introduction in such a way that is able to provide context, outline key points, basically all of that I told you. So I'm going to give you another one. So this one basically tells you what you're supposed to do, which I already told you. This one is, this house would ban smoking. Okay. So what could the introduction look like? More than 3 billion people smoke in the world. People tend to smoke because it gives them stress relief and dopamine for like few seconds. And then you're supposed to go for the motion, which is first argument. It has worst health impacts, and then you can explain what the worst health impacts are. Second argument, it affects environment, and then you can explain how it affects the environment. Third argument, it harms children, and then you can tell as to why it harms children. So you're supposed to mention pointers, but you're also supposed to explain these pointers. Then you would transition. Okay. So how would you transition? So this is a way how you can transition from for the motion to against the motion. So just because smoking has these harms that I told you does not mean you need to ban it, that there are, and there's no benefit at all. Let me tell you why we in fact should not ban smoking. So that is another way of you transitioning from for the motion to against. So then there is arguments against the motion. So it contributes to economy. It is the choice of individuals. It gives them escapism from life, etc. So all of which is supposed to be done in 1 minute. Now, how can you conclude it? So the way how you can conclude this one is that all in all, smoking is surely injurious to health, but banning is not the solution to it. We should have rehabilitation centers and awareness campaigns to educate them regarding bad effects of smoking. And then you can end your speech. So what you observe here is that I used 3 arguments for the motion, 3 arguments against the motion. I had a transition in between. I concluded with the idea that sure, like smoking actually has harms, but banning wouldn't solve it. It balances both sides. And then I gave an introduction where I basically used a research which shows that 3 billion people in the world actually are impacted by it. So yes, you will get a buzzering at 3 minutes. You can sit and observe if you want to correct. Okay. The next one is, how are you judged by the judges? So what are the judges looking at? So you're totally marked out of 30, in which 10 marks is for matter. So what is the content like? What are your arguments for the motion? What are your arguments against the motion? And then you're supposed to go to manner, which is basically how do you present? Are you making eye contact? Are you reading off the doc? So if you're reading off the doc, you'll get like lesser score. And then expressions, engagement, and how you're doing it. And then followed by this, you have method. So method is basically, is the person covering both sides of the motion well? Are they rebutting their stance in their, and then are they basically, do they basically have equal number of arguments? So how you're speaking, what you're speaking, and what is the structure of your speech, all of which is going to be counted. So try to remember your speech. But yes, if you have plug cards and you want to just read off one sentence, that's all right. So that's how your turn quote is going to be marked. So if there are any questions, let me know. I see somebody was saying, is there negative marking if we do not complete? Okay, so there is no negative marking for if you do not complete within 3 minutes. So negative markings if you go forward, which is if you speak for more than 3 minutes 15 seconds, you will get less scores. But if you speak exactly for 3 minutes, again, that's a good thing. You get good scores for method. But let's say if you speak for lesser than 3 minutes, there is no no reduction of score unless you're only speaking for 1 minute. Okay, so you will have 15 seconds to cover up your. Is the age considered while judging? No, because I think that it is a category. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, all of you all come under the same category. Everybody's seeing you from the same lens. So that's it for turncoat students. If you all want, you can leave. If you have any doubts, you can stay and then just ask it for the next 3 minutes.
Miss?
Yes, you are.
Miss, I just wanted to say that the slide you showed about banning smoking, it's technically like banning water for some people in such a democratic society today.
Yeah, that's true.
Is the 3-minute speech including my introduction or as well, or it is separated?
Your introduction is separate.
Excuse me, ma'am.
You don't have to use props, whoever is asking that. No props.
Ma'am.
Ma'am, can we use that sheet?
Ma'am, we have to search our own material.
Yes, you have to search your own
Ma'am?
material.
Ma'am, which is better?
sheet
TC or APD?
I'm sorry, what?
Which is better, TC or APD?
So I think each has its own benefits. Turncoat is good if you like to,
Ma'am,
independently.
this is also a speech, TC or APD.
Ma'am?
So APD is good if you like to debate. Turncoat is good if you like to speak. Okay, guys, don't speak out of turn. But turncoat students, now you all can leave.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Shania.
Ma'am, can we make improvement?
Excuse
we?
me, ma'am.
Ma'am, you will give us the topic.
I have already given you the topic.
Ma'am,
Excuse
can
me,
we
ma'am.
speak the
Can
same
use our
thing which we
hands?
spoke in the first round?
Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can we use our hands?
Saira, I just mentioned in the beginning of the training session why there are 3 rounds. So one, you're supposed to remember the 3-minute speech, so it should be by-hearted. So if we give you 3 topics, and you're supposed to remember 3 different speeches, it's really, really difficult. But also globalization as a topic is really difficult. So I want you to research well on that topic. But lastly, 3 rounds is for you to practice properly in the 3 rounds. Do not speak until I ask you to speak. So that is the reason why the topic is same for all 3 rounds. No, don't use ChatGPT.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
in
Ma'am, we have to use our hands.
can we make hand movement?
Yes,
have
use
to
hand
say
movements. You can stand and give your speech as well. Parv?
And class, and we have to say something else also.
Huh? Can you repeat your question, Parv?
Ma'am, we have to do introduction of our name, class, school, and topic. And we have to say anything else also.
No. So before you start your speech, give your introduction that I'm Parv, I'm from this class, and then start with the introduction to the topic.
Excuse
Excuse
Ma'am, we can speak the
Okay.
same thing which we spoke in the beginning.
Ma'am,
Yes,
we do
all
not
the-
have to say our school name.
You can, not necessarily. We have all the data. So judges already have all of your data. So you don't necessarily have to mention a lot of
Okay,
your
ma'am.
data.
Ma'am,
Okay.
how many students are going to get qualified for the
I-
finale?
I will tell you on 5th of May. Okay.
Okay,
All
ma'am.
right. Everybody who is in turncoat, please leave. Now the APD students are joining in. Please, rest of you all,
Excuse me,
please
ma'am.
leave.
Ma'am, I was asking, they will call us or we have to raise our hands and then speak.
Judges will call you, and then all of these logistical questions I'm gonna answer tomorrow. Okay.
Ma'am,
See you guys tomorrow. I'm gonna answer all of these questions.
can I ask at least something?
Ma'am, bye.
Ma'am,
Please keep your hands raised. That's not the right way to ask, right? And I can see many people
Miss, I don't have the phone number to my team.
Can all of you please be on mute? I can see a lot of you who are not on mute. Immediately, all of you go on mute.
tell this school name also. Ma'am, can TC children leave?
Yes, you can leave if you're in TC. All of you, I want to see you on mute. So Shambhavi, Shania, I can't see you on mute. Shania, you can leave. You're a TC child. I don't want to see any TC child on the group, please.
Ma'am, the students between class 3rd to 5 are in TC group.
No, so 3rd to 5 also has 2 groups, right? One is the TC speech event and one is the AP, which you're a part of, Yana. Okay? Devika
Yes.
ma'am, if you want, I'm here with Afro ma'am. Okay, so I want to now see only the APD student. Is that okay? Is that a fair ask? And I don't want to see anybody who's speaking in the middle. Yana, put yourself on mute. Thank you. Shambhavi, put yourself on mute. I want to now see if everybody has learned the art of renaming themselves. Okay, so let's just see if I can just scroll. Let me see who's in APD. So Ayusha, mid, you are early, joining early. Don't join now. Nandini, Myra, Prachi, Maisha, Kavir Behel, you have to rename yourself as per the format. The format is as follows. It is category, which is JR. Then it is your first name. I don't need to see your surname. And then it is your format, which is APD and TC. So except for 3 or 4 students, I think you guys are doing a very good job of renaming yourself. And it is so important to rename yourself because then we can allocate you the rooms quickly. Anu Gupta, class 3B, Arav Mohi, Jagjeet, for ma'am is a ma'am, that's fine if your teachers are attending. Kavir, Maisha, Myra, do you know how to rename yourself? Prisha, do you all know how to rename yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
On your little window on the top right, try to rename yourself. I have absolutely great faith in your ability to learn. So we will make sure that you learn faster than anybody else. Okay. So Myra, Maisha, Kabir, please rename yourself. All TC students, bye-bye. We will see you tomorrow for a good demo practice. Okay. And Ayusha, you early. Afreen ma'am, should we then start with APD?
Yes.
क्लास का चढ़ाया है पेट पेंडिंग
Rohini, keep yourself on mute. Put yourself in the format that we've requested. Let's go, Afreen ma'am. I think we've got to go. And
Okay, before
I would
I-
yeah.
Okay, so similar rules apply like yesterday. No one unmutes unless I ask you to. Keep your hands raised if you have an urgent question. Otherwise, keep it in the chat box. We readily look in the chat box, and we're actually happy to look at the chat box and respond. So the second thing is I'm going to start with the fastest fingers first, which is going to be a recap from what we did yesterday. Okay, so what it basically means is that you're supposed to write your answers in the chat box as soon as I ask you the question. Okay, all good. All please be ready in the chat box. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, right? The first question is, how many members are there in one team? Great. All of y'all who say 3 is the correct answer. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. The second question is, the team that supports the motion is called opposition. True or false? Correct. So the team that supports the motion is called proposition. The team that opposes the motion is opposition. Wonderful. Somebody says it's actually correct. That's correct. Great. The next question that I have is, how much time do you get per speaker to speak in the chat box? Quick. 3 minutes. Okay, wonderful. Each speaker in the round gets 3 minutes to speak. The next question that I have is, how much buffer time do you have to end your speech after 3 minutes? What is the buffer time? Oh, no 1 minute. It is only 15 seconds. So post 3 minutes, 15 seconds, the judges stop writing and stop listening, and they would also score you less for your speech. So do not exceed 3 minutes, 15 seconds. Wonderful. The next question I have is, how many topics have we released yesterday? Do you have your APD topics? Yes, we released your topics. Correct. Wonderful. Okay. The next question that I have is, what is your... Okay, all these questions about rebuttals, I will answer in this session today. So don't worry about that. Okay. All right then. I think we are good to start. Can anyone tell me what is your expectation to learn today? What are we going to learn today? I mentioned it yesterday in APD. Form a speech, great. Tips and tricks, great. Okay, great. Then I'm going to start sharing screen. All right. So this is APD. I think recap we've already done. One team speaks for the motion, one team speaks against the motion. Time limit for like one speaker is 3 minutes. This is the structure. Proposition speaker 1, then opposition speaker 1, proposition speaker 2, opposition speaker 2, speaker 3 from proposition, and then opposition speaker 3. All right. Then what do you have to do? So what you're supposed to do, and this is the structure of the entire debate, how it actually looks like. So first the speaker 1 comes, and then I think when you actually get to know whether you're supposed to come or not is going to be something that the judges will tell. So the judges invite the first speaker from proposition, please give your speech, or I will invite the second speaker from opposition, and so on and so forth. So this is how you would know that this is your turn to speak, okay? So let's start from the beginning. So it will be proposition speaker 1 speaks, and then once their speech is done, you will get 15 seconds of gap period between the second speaker. So all the structure remains the same. There is only 15 seconds of gap period between one speaker to the other, so that, you know, there is some time for you to wrap up your thoughts, etc. So that is the thing that I want to cover. So this is going to be your entire structure back and forth of proposition and opposition. The last speaker of the round becomes opposition third speaker. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how to frame arguments today. Now, before I think you all have probably seen my screen now, but can anyone tell me the 3 parts of argument in the chat box? What are the 3 things that you need to do in your argument to make a good argument? Intro, body, conclusion is your parts of speech. It is not part of your argument. Argument is your body. So what should be in your body? All right. Seems like something that people don't know, which means I'm here to tell you about it. So in your argument, when you're making your body, you're supposed to make sure that first you're able to brainstorm multiple points, and then you're supposed to identify that how can I reason it out. So there are 3 things that you need to do in each argument. So first, identify what the point is, which is your claim. Then go forward and give reasoning to the claim and give an example. What it means is identify what your pointer is and then explain it and then give an example. So it could be a real world example, etc. For example, if the motion or the topic is this house would ban smoking, you would first think for a couple of minutes, you'll probably research for it, and then you will come up with a couple of pointers. So for example, we should ban smoking because it is bad for health, it harms other people, it wastes a lot of resources, it has environmental impacts, etc., etc. So these are just points, and these points don't make any difference for the judges because I think these are just assertions. These are just claims. You never prove to me how it is bad for health. You never prove to me as to why it is bad for you, like it is wastage of resources, or you never tell me as to why it impacts medical industry, right? So remember always that the pointers that you identify in the beginning are just like a guide for you to elaborate your points later, which means these points are nothing without you giving proper reasoning and valid examples. Now, how can you give proper reasoning and valid example? Is this example. So if the argument that you're identifying is that we should ban smoking because it is bad for health, the reasoning that you would give is A, it causes diseases, B, it increases risk for your immune system. Third, the way how it actually functions is that smoke enters your lungs and damages your body. It leads to circulation of oxygen in blood. It leads to less circulation of oxygen in blood, raises blood pressure, etc., which leads to example. Now, your example is basically something that is based out of your reasoning. So you just mentioned that, you know what, there are a lot of diseases that are being caused by smoking. So what are these examples? So examples could be, it causes diseases like tuberculosis, cancer, diabetes, lung diseases, heart stroke, etc. So that is the example of the reasoning that you already gave, okay? So the next thing that I'm going to tell you is, tell me the reasoning for the argument that I'm going to tell you, okay? So can anyone tell me in the chat box quickly? So somebody says, if somebody tells you that, you know what, smoking is bad because it harms other people, How can smoking harm other people? In the chat box. Can anyone tell me? In the chat box. How can smoking bother or harm other people? It correct, pollution, yes, and pollution hampers yes, people inhale it. So even if, let's say, if I do not smoke, somebody else in front of me is smoking, I'm indirectly and passively smoking, which means I'm still inhaling the same polluted air, which is again bad for my diseases, bad for my lungs, etc. So even though as a person I choose not to smoke, it still impacts me and it bothers me. But also a lot of people just don't and can't bother or like can't tolerate somebody else smoking around them. So it again bothers me because I don't like the smell, I don't like the fact that I have to inhale the bad smell, etc. The third thing that you all are saying is that it spreads pollution. So it spread pollution, that's true, but you still have to explain how it spreads pollution. The emissions that smoking creates, you have to explain about that, and then how it contributes to pollution. Okay, yes, I love it, Adviti, that's correct. Great. So you all understand that how you can give explanation to your pointers. Okay, let's move forward. So this is how you would make your argument. So your arguments, I do not want to see speeches in your qualifiers round where you're just simply throwing sentences and you're not elaborating on them. It is extremely important for you to elaborate on your claims. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a question and let's see how many of you all get it right. So tell me, what is, according to this one? So tell me now, what are the three parts of an argument in the chat box? Quickly.
Ma'am, can you please skip to the last slide for 1 second? I'm just going to take a screenshot.
I will send the document. I'm asking a question which is based on the last slide. So parts of an argument, everyone. Claim, reasoning, example. Correct. So parts of an argument is claim, reasoning, example. Then tell me what is the parts of speech? Quickly in the chat box. Parts of speech is intro, body, conclusion. So do not get confused. Parts of speech is intro, body, conclusion. Parts of argument, which is again body, is claim, reasoning, example. Great. I hope this is clear. The last thing that I'm going to ask based on this slide is, what do you think is the most important part of an argument? Is it the claim, reasoning, or example? Tell me what is the most important part of an argument. Someone says claim, someone says example, someone says reasoning. Let's see what most people think. Quickly write in the chat box. Which is the most important part of an argument? Okay, I'm going to wait for like 30 more seconds to see like and gauge what all people are saying. Somebody says all. That's not true. Okay, the right answer is reasoning is the most important part of an argument, which is because reasoning basically gives you logical explanation to what you're actually saying. So claims are baseless without reasoning, and examples are also baseless without reasoning. So you can't simply give examples and say that, you know what, this is the analysis to my argument. You still have to give a reasoning and then you have to give an example. So reasoning becomes the most important part of an argument because other parts of arguments are actually dependent on reasoning for the argument to be established. All right, I hope this is clear. If I ask this question tomorrow, you have to all answer it correctly. All right, then. So I think you all were asking about, you know, what we're supposed to do in terms of speaker roles, because again, first speaker, second speaker, third speaker, can we repeat the same arguments and so on and so forth? So let's just try to figure out how this functions, right? So I'll tell you first thing, okay? So first speaker, which is for both sides, which is proposition first speaker and opposition first speaker, is supposed to do three things. First, define the key terms of the motion. For example, if the motion is this house would ban smoking, you would define what is smoking and how would ban on smoking look like in the first speech. The second thing is that you would go ahead and mention three arguments. So just give the claims that you're going to present as a team. Remember, it's a team event, which is why cohesiveness in the team is really important. It should show up that you all have talked to each other and you all have collaboratively made your case. Okay, so the first speaker from both sides is going to present what the 4 arguments are going to be. When I say present 4 arguments, what I mean here is basically this. So the first speaker would say, let's say, define the key terms, etc., etc. And then, for example, if your proposition in this motion, you would say, as proposition, we're going to present 4 arguments to you. First, smoking is bad for health. Second, smoking bothers other people. Third, smoking wastes resources. And last, smoking has environmental impacts. So you're just mentioning what the arguments are. You're not explaining all of them. So as first speaker, you would then go ahead and explain the first 2 arguments. So what are the first 2 arguments here? 1, it is bad for health, and it bothers other people. So first speaker, mention the claims, elaborate properly with reasonings and examples the first 2 arguments, conclude your speech with your concluding line, and then that's it for first speaker. Definition, mention, and elaboration of 2 arguments. Now you must ask, can we make more than 4 arguments? Can we make 5 arguments? Can we make 3 arguments as a team? All up to you. But remember that there's enough content for every speaker, which is why I have put 4 arguments. If you want to make it 5 arguments also, you can. And then you can be like, okay, the first speaker can do 2 arguments. The second speaker can elaborate on 3 arguments. That's a division that you can do by yourself. I've just given you an example. But the ideal thing to do, and just to make the things fair here, is probably mention 4 arguments, explain the first 2, and then let the second speaker explain the second 2. So what does the second speaker do? Second speaker now would explain rest of the 2 arguments with reasoning and example. So what is he doing? So if the first speaker already explained it is bad for health and it bothers other people, the second speaker can explain how it wastes resources and how it impacts environment. So that's a new content altogether. You're giving new reasonings, new examples, etc. So if second speaker wants, he can add any new arguments as well. So second speaker has full leeway to actually add new arguments. But the third speaker cannot give new arguments. So what does the third speaker do? So third speaker is basically the wingman of the entire team. So third speaker is trying to give a summary of all the arguments that has happened. So why the summary is important is because the 4 arguments that you have done, you can, if you want to, you can give extra examples for those, or you can give extra reasonings for the already existing arguments, but do not introduce a new argument altogether. So what you can do as third speaker is summarize your argument. So what have you given as a team totally? Prove to the judge as to why you win the debate, and prove to the team that and identify the harms that the opposition had done. So you can tell us to why the opposition is probably not the best in this debate. Opposition basically means opponents. So 3 things that third speaker is supposed to do: summarize your points. So in summary, you can basically give what are the points that you have given as a team, and you can extend on it. So you can basically give new examples and new reasonings in your speech. Do not add new argument. Prove to the judge as to why you win the debate. So explain the entire idea as to why your benefits are more than harms of your opponents. And that's pretty much it for the 3 speakers. Will you be told whether you're first, second, or third speaker? So by far, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to talk to your teammates and discuss as to who is going to be the first speaker, second speaker, third speaker. You can discuss it based on what role you actually like. For example, I like going third speaker because I like to prove the judge as to why we win the debate. So that's why I go third speaker. So you can discuss amongst your team as to who should go first, second, and third. That's something that we don't decide. It's your liberty to decide. The second thing that I'm going to deal with here is, are rebuttals allowed? So rebuttals are complicated for your category, which is why specifically we have not mentioned it in speaker role. But if you think that you have capability and you know how to rebut, you can rebut. What is rebuttal is essentially proving why the opponents are, so you refuting the opponent's points. So you proving as to why your opponents are wrong. This can be done in second speaker and third speaker. So if you think you can do it, sure. Otherwise, no burden on you. You can simply give positive material. So what would rebuttal look like ideally in second speaker and third speaker? I'm going to give you an example. If it is smoking is, if it is, okay, yeah, here. So if it says that smoking impacts industries like medical industry, I could respond to that on opponents and say that smoking creates a lot of, let's say, diseases. That basically means people tend to spend a lot of money on medical industry, which again tends to again, contribute a lot to the economy simply because a lot of medical industry is contributing to the GDP at the end of the day. Even if you're getting operations, even if you're like buying, let's say like, engaging with biochemicals and like going to pharmaceutical companies, etc. All of that actually helps these companies to flourish. And I think the idea generally is that uh, a lot of people actually, and nowadays medical industry has kind of become like profit oriented. So the impact that proposition is trying to identify is actually a positive impact because again, they are earning so much if people are smoking, but at the end of the day, it's their choice. So it shouldn't matter whether or not they're spending money or not because they know that they're going to spend money at the end of the day, but they still choose to smoke. So, which is why this argument does not stand. So that is it. But then if you want to respond to the second argument, which is like, oh, you know what, it bothers other people. So on opposition, you can say that, you know what, it actually does not bother other people insofar as it is not done publicly. So you can probably restrict smoking in public areas, which is basically the norm and the legal idea of it. So you cannot actually smoke in public areas. You can only do it in private spaces. And like smoking areas. So at that point of time, it doesn't bother other people, which is why proposition is wrong. So basically, refuting is proving why your opponents are wrong. So if you think you can do it, sure, but don't take extra burden of it. Who can rebut if you want to ask second speaker and third speaker? Okay, when will you get to know whether you're for the motion or against the motion? You would know about it on the spot. So when you join tomorrow, you would essentially know. Yeah, so when you join tomorrow, you would essentially know. No, not tomorrow. When you join on 5th, yeah. So when you join on 5th of May, you would know how to when
And
you're.
but Afrin ma'am, I suppose that's not a problem because they anyways have to prepare for the motion and against the motion, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes. So the last thing then is the criteria that the adjudicators are marking you for: matter, manner, and method. Matter is the arguments. Did you give them sufficient reasoning, or were they just examples and were they just a claim? So reasoning and your examples both count as matter. Did you actually run relevant points, or you were just making different assertions which weren't relevant? All of that is going to be seen. Did you do proper research in your matter? All of that is going to be seen in matter. Then in manner, it's going to be seen how you're speaking. Are you continuously reading or are you actually making eye contact with the judges? Did you have voice modulation? Was it clear? I was able to understand. Did you use voice? Did you have good body language? All of that is going to be seen. And lastly, in method, what's going to be seen is going to be, is your structure really good? So did you speak more? So did you speak more for more time or did you speak for less time? Did you speak exactly for 3 minutes? Did you elaborate your point sufficiently? Did you attempt on rebutting? All of that is going to be seen to see if you have good. So matter, manner, method, everything counts. So prepare well. Lastly, prepare your speech so it's well timed. So try to prepare it and then time it and see if it is coming for 3 minutes. Secondly, you have to attend all 3 rounds. So you will get your results on the spot, which is basically whether you won or lost that round. But that shouldn't at any point of time discourage you from participating in the next round because each round counts. Because irrespective of whether you lose the first round, it's possible that you would win the second round or it's possible that you would win the third round. But even then, your worth or your ability to debate does not depend on whether you're able to win, but it's dependent on whether you're able to improve. So attend all 3 rounds and get feedback from the judges so you can improve. If not this time, the next time in the tournament. Lastly, you can refer to sheets, but do not continuously read out. But yeah, if there are any more doubts from today's session, let me know. But that's pretty much it from APD. Please put it in the chat box if you have specific doubts and then keep your hands up if you want to ask.
Yeah, just put it on the chat is the best way. Let's just get used to the chat as well. So let's spend a minute, quickly put in the chat because in 2 minutes, I shall be entering the middle category there. I do want to speak to them for a second. My system is very hard. Okay, yeah. Have they put it in the chat, Afrin ma'am?
The judges will score you on the criteria that I already shared. I think you don't need to worry about how the judges score and everything right now. We have a system.
How would we know if we are doing for the team or against the motion?
On the spot, we will tell you. We will tell you whether you're for the team, against the team, and we will also tell you which room you're supposed to go to. Don't worry.
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes, Shriva.
So, ma'am, I was asking, like, suppose if I am the third speaker, and we are in the for the most for round 1. So, I was asking, like, is it necessary for me to rebuttal the people who have spoken before, or if I want to rebuttal, it's okay? Or
Yeah, so it's your choice. It's your choice. If you want to do rebuttal, it's your choice. All right. If you don't have
Afreen ma'am,
any doubts,
I
you can-
just want to make sure. I just all of you can put your doubts on the hello email ID as well. I just want to make sure that all of you understand and meet up with your teams. So I hope you are in touch with your teams. Just in case you are not, you will please let me know.